The morning I turned 21, my life didn't just change, it detonated. Not with fireworks or a dramatic explosion, but with a quiet, sharp break that cut cleaner than I ever imagined. I woke expecting nothing special, but there was still a small part of me, that leftover piece of childhood hope, that thought maybe there would be something warm. A balloon. A smile. A slice of cake. Maybe even one of those awkward family hugs people post about online. Instead, the house felt colder than the air outside, still, heavy, like the walls themselves already knew what was waiting for me. I barely made it past the doorway when I heard my dad call my name from the living room. Harper. His voice carried the same tone he used when he wanted the TV remote or the mail, flat, unbothered, almost bored. He stood stiffly beside a small wrapped box sitting on the table, like this whole thing was an obligation he wanted to get over with. My sister Riley leaned against the counter, arms folded, a smirk already tugging at her mouth, the kind of smirk she kept saved for only 2 occasions, when she was about to see someone fail, or when she thought she'd already won. Today, apparently, she got both. Mom hovered by the sink, eyes red and swollen, like she had spent half the night fighting tears she didn't want anyone to notice. Her hands fidgeted with the dish towel as if keeping them busy would keep her quiet. She always tried to maintain peace in a house that rejected it like a foreign language. Before I could take 2 steps into the room, Dad pushed the little box across the table toward me. "Open it," he said, voice final, rehearsed, like he had practiced this moment in the mirror. I hesitated, not because I feared the gift, but because something in the air shifted, something sharp, something irreversible. I lifted the lid, expecting maybe a symbolic key, maybe a cheap necklace, perhaps even something pretend meaningful, because at least that would imply some form of care. But inside was a single one-way bus ticket. To Denver. Leaving in 3 hours. The world narrowed instantly. My pulse slammed against my throat so hard I felt the thud in my ears. For a moment everything blurred, the room, their faces, the cheap ticking of the wall clock. It was like my birthday had become a countdown, except instead of candles, they gave me a departure time. Dad crossed his arms, jaw tight. "Time for you to figure life out on your own," he said, not unkindly, not angrily, just cold. "Good luck out there." Riley laughed, loud and delighted, like she had just witnessed the punchline of her favorite joke. "Yeah, Harper," she said, "enjoy the adventure or whatever." Mom moved toward me, her hand trembling as she reached for my arm. "Please," she whispered, "don't argue. Don't make it worse." The desperation in her voice almost cracked me open. Almost. But not quite. I looked at all 3 of them, my dismissive father, my thrilled-to-see-me-fall sister, and my mother who loved quietly but never loudly enough to make a difference. And in that moment, a strange calm washed over me. Not numbness. Not sadness. Just clarity. They thought they were pushing me into the unknown. They thought they were giving me a harsh lesson, a cold shove into the real world, a tough love story they'd repeat at gatherings with forced sighs and dramatic pauses. But they had no idea. They had no clue they weren't cutting me off, they were setting me free. I closed the box, hugged Mom tightly, pressing my face into her shoulder, ignoring the burning that gathered behind my eyes. She trembled against me, probably thinking this was a goodbye to a lost cause. I didn't say a single word to Dad or Riley. Not one. No protest, no argument, no question. Silence hit them harder than any shouting ever could. I walked to my room, grabbed my old duffel bag, the one I used when I stayed over at my friend's place during coding marathons, and walked straight out the front door. And as that door clicked shut behind me, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Relief. Not pain. Not fear. Relief, like the weight of the world had slipped off my shoulders. Because what they didn't know, what they could never even begin to guess, was that I wasn't some directionless, fragile kid they needed to toughen up. I was already the youngest co-founder of a rising tech company valued at $40 million. Pulsebyte. My creation. My code. My late nights. My ideas. And the bus ticket wasn't exile. It was escape. 3 hours later, I sat on that bus as the afternoon sunlight flickered through the windows like strobe lights, making everything feel surreal and cinematic. My phone buzzed non-stop with messages from Logan Pierce, my business partner, my co-founder, My friend who believed in me long before anyone else ever did. Logan Pierce. 23. Sharp jawline. Sharper mind. The kind of guy who could pitch a startup at midnight and close a deal by sunrise. His messages kept popping up one after another. Harper, you good? Harper, you left earlier than planned. Harper, call me when you land. Wait, bus. Why bus? I couldn't help smiling as I typed back. Me. Long story, but I'm fine. See you soon. But fine wasn't the right word. I was electric. Alive. Free. Everything they tried to crush in me, every spark, every ambition, every dream, was now pushing me forward with twice the force. To them, I was leaving home with nothing but a duffel bag and a bus ticket. Let them believe it. Revenge doesn't need yelling. It needs timing. And my timing had never been better. Far ahead, Denver rose like a skyline drawn in neon, bright and pulsing with opportunity. And as the bus hissed to a stop and Logan appeared waiting beside his silver SUV, I knew this wasn't just the start of a new chapter. It was the beginning of the life I was always meant to live. People always assume that a smiling face is a happy one, but they never bother to look deeper, to pause for a moment and wonder if that smile is real or just a shield forged out of necessity. That's the kind of smile I carried, bright enough to comfort the world, but cracked enough to remind me every second that I wasn't okay. Whenever people looked at me, they saw confidence, stability, someone who never breaks. But behind that mask lived a heart that trembled every night, a mind that carried storms quietly, and a soul that begged for rest. I wasn't strong, I was simply good at pretending. Every morning, I put on that mask like armor. I walked out into a world that expected me to rise, shine, and succeed. You're so strong, they would say. You always handle everything so easily. But they didn't see how many nights I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering how long I could keep going like this. They didn't see the invisible battles I fought, the doubts, the guilt, the exhaustion, the fear of being vulnerable. Because vulnerability felt like weakness, and weakness felt like something I had no right to show. So I hid everything behind a smile, polished and practiced like a performance I had mastered long ago. I remember one day sitting in a room full of people who laughed and talked as if their worlds were perfectly in place. I laughed with them, nodding at jokes, adding comments at the right moments, but inside, a heaviness pulled me down like an anchor tied to my chest. No one noticed. Why would they? I didn't allow anyone to see past the surface. I had built walls too high, too thick, out of fear that if anyone entered, they would witness the chaos I kept locked away. It wasn't that I didn't want to be understood, it was that I didn't want to burden anyone. So I swallowed my pain, dressed it with a grin, and moved on. There were moments when I stood in front of the mirror, staring at my reflection, trying to recognize the person I had become. My eyes told the truth, tired, sad, longing for something I couldn't name. But my lips curved into the same old smile, the one I gave to the world. It was almost ironic how well I could lie to myself. You're fine, I whispered. You have to be. But my heart always knew the truth, I wasn't fine. I was breaking in slow motion. It's frightening how easy it becomes to hide pain when you've done it for so long. You start believing that silence is safer than honesty, that pretending is easier than explaining, that suffering alone is better than risking the disappointment of others. I chose silence every time. Not because I wanted to, but because I felt I had no other choice. I didn't know how to say I'm hurting. I didn't know how to admit I need help. So I carried everything alone, even when the weight threatened to crush me. People praised my strength, but they never realized that my strength wasn't strength at all, it was survival. I wasn't strong because I was brave, I was strong because I had to be. Life had taught me early that showing pain invited judgment, that showing weakness invited abandonment. So I learned to smile through everything, to laugh when I wanted to cry, to keep walking even when my heart bled quietly. The irony is that the people who called me strong never asked me if I was okay. They assumed, and I let them assume. Because the few times I tried to open up, my voice trembled, the words got stuck in my throat, and the fear took over. So I closed myself off again and again. It became a cycle, one that drained me, one that left me feeling invisible in the crowd, unheard even when I screamed silently, unnoticed even when I begged internally for someone to look deeper. But sometimes, in the quiet moments of the night, when the world slept and the noise faded, I let myself feel everything. I allowed the tears I hid all day to fall freely. I allowed myself to break without shame. Those were the moments when the mask came off, when the smile faded, when I faced the truth I hid from everyone, including myself. And in those moments, I realized just how lonely it is to be the strong one, to be the person everyone relies on but no one checks on. I longed for someone who would look past my smile, past my composure, past my carefully built walls. Someone who would hear the pain I never spoke of, someone who would stay even when I had nothing to offer but my brokenness. I wanted someone to ask, "Are you really okay?" in a way that made me believe they genuinely wanted the truth, not just a polite answer. I wanted someone who wouldn't be scared of my darkness, who wouldn't flinch at my vulnerability. But until that person appeared, I kept moving. I kept smiling. I kept pretending. Because the world doesn't slow down for you, not even when you're falling apart. It keeps spinning, demanding, expecting. And you either keep up or get left behind. So I pushed myself to keep up, even on days when taking one step felt like climbing a mountain. Even on days when my chest felt heavy and my mind felt numb. People think I'm strong, but strength is not the absence of pain, it's the ability to endure it quietly. And behind my smile lived stories no one ever heard, battles no one ever saw, and wounds no one ever cared to understand. But the truth was simple. I wasn't strong. I was tired. Tired of pretending. Tired of being okay. Tired of hiding behind a smile that wasn't mine anymore. Yet, I wore it anyway, because that's what the world expected from me. I had convinced myself that pretending was easier than facing reality, that if I smiled long enough, maybe the cracks inside me would magically seal themselves. For months, I kept moving through life like a ghost operating inside a functioning body, working, talking, laughing, and existing, but never truly living. It became so normal that I didn't even realize how numb I had become. I thought that as long as I kept my routine, no one would notice the emptiness inside me. But life has a strange way of cornering you, of revealing the things you try hardest to hide. That morning felt like any other. I woke up to the same heaviness pressing against my chest, the same tired eyes staring back at me in the mirror. I put on the same practiced smile, the same rehearsed expressions that made everyone believe I was doing great. But deep down, something felt different. It was as if the world had gone quiet in a way that wasn't peaceful but foreboding, like the silence before a storm. I ignored it, as usual, and continued with my day, hoping the feeling would fade. It didn't. Every small thing felt heavier. A simple message felt like a burden. A casual conversation demanded too much emotional energy. Even breathing felt like work. By the time afternoon came, I felt like I was holding myself together with shaking hands. But still, I pretended. Still, I told everyone I was fine. Still, I smiled. Because that's what I always did. That's what people expected from me. Then came the moment that pushed everything over the edge. All it took was one simple question: "Are you okay?" It wasn't asked dramatically. It wasn't filled with concern. It was just a normal question someone asked casually while walking past me. But something inside me broke. Maybe it was because I wasn't prepared. Maybe it was because I hadn't heard those words in so long. Maybe it was because that tiny bit of human attention touched a part of me I had abandoned. Whatever it was, it shattered the dam I had built. For the first time in months, I couldn't lie. The words got stuck in my throat. My smile refused to show up. I felt my chest tighten, my vision blur, my breath tremble. I managed to nod, pretending I didn't hear them properly, but inside I was collapsing. I excused myself to the nearest empty room, locked the door, and finally let the tears I had been suffocating escape. I cried, not softly, not quietly, but with a rawness that felt like it had been waiting for release. It wasn't just sadness, it was exhaustion, fear, loneliness, disappointment, and everything I had buried. It felt like years of emotions poured out at once. And as painful as it was, there was a strange relief in finally breaking, like my soul had been waiting for this moment. While I cried, I realized the truth I had been running from. I wasn't okay. I hadn't been okay for a long time. And pretending wasn't helping, it was destroying me. That realization hit harder than anything. I had always prided myself on being strong, resilient, capable. I had spent years being the person who fixed things, who supported others, who made everything seem under control. Admitting that I was struggling felt like betraying that identity. But in that locked room, with tears streaming down my face, I understood something I should have learned long ago. Strength isn't about never falling apart. Real strength is being honest with yourself, even when the truth terrifies you. As I sat there, wiping tears with shaky hands, memories from the past months flooded my mind. The nights I pretended to sleep while silently drowning in thoughts. The mornings I forced myself out of bed with empty motivation. The moments I laughed at jokes that didn't reach my heart. I realized how long I had been disconnected from myself. I had become a version of me that was functioning only for the sake of surviving, not living. I wanted to escape those feelings, but for once, life didn't allow me to. It forced me to face them, to confront everything I had run from. And in that confrontation, something shifted. I didn't suddenly become okay. I didn't suddenly feel lighter. But I did feel real. For the first time in a long while, I wasn't pretending. I wasn't wearing a mask. I wasn't lying to myself. When I finally left that room, the world looked the same, but I wasn't the same anymore. My smile wasn't there, but neither was the mask. It felt strange walking around without it, almost like stepping outside without clothes. But it also felt honest. And that honesty was something I had forgotten the taste of. People noticed the difference instantly. Some asked if I was tired. Some joked that I looked serious. But no one truly understood what had happened inside me, nor did I expect them to. This was a battle I had to fight within myself, a journey only I could walk. That night, instead of pretending everything was fine, I sat with myself. I didn't distract my feelings, didn't hide them, didn't avoid them. I let them be. I allowed myself to feel, to hurt, to ache, to breathe. And in doing so, I realized how necessary it was. Healing doesn't begin with pretending, it begins with acceptance. I understood that life had forced me to confront the truth, not to break me, but to free me. Free me from the performance. Free me from the pressure of perfection. Free me from the weight of silent suffering. Free me from the belief that I always had to be strong. I had been living like a volcano, calm on the outside, burning inside, waiting to erupt. And when I finally did, it wasn't destruction. It was release. Life caught me off guard on purpose. Because sometimes, the only way to save yourself is to stop pretending you're not drowning. And in that moment, I finally admitted the truth. I needed help. I needed rest. I needed honesty. I needed myself. The days that followed were nothing short of a revelation. Each morning felt like stepping into a world that had always existed but that I had been blind to. Denver's skyline glistened in ways I had never truly noticed, the sunlight bouncing off the glass towers, the streets humming with ambition and possibility, the air carrying a mixture of excitement, tension, and infinite potential. I walked through it with a new awareness, feeling every sensation, every sound, every pulse of the city as if it was synchronized with the newfound rhythm inside me. Logan had been my anchor through it all, the steady force who reminded me that while life demanded raw resilience, it also rewarded those who embraced honesty and courage. His confidence, the way he navigated the chaos of a city brimming with innovators, investors, and skeptics, was magnetic. Watching him work was like watching a master conductor guiding an orchestra, each decision, each gesture precise, deliberate, yet seemingly effortless. He had the uncanny ability to see the bigger picture, to anticipate moves before they happened, and somehow, he had chosen to trust me completely. That trust, more than any milestone or paycheck, anchored me. Our office, a sleek modern space in the heart of Denver, had become a crucible of creativity and ambition. The PulseBite team worked with a synchronized energy that made chaos feel ordered. Engineers hunched over glowing monitors, fingers flying across keyboards as if conducting lightning. Designers sketched and annotated, their eyes bright with inspiration and intensity. The energy in the air was palpable, electric, relentless, addictive. And I was at the center of it all, not as a passive observer, but as a creator, a leader, a force. I felt it in my bones. This was the life I was meant to lead. Yet, even amidst the pulse of innovation and growth, the shadow of my family loomed quietly at the edges of my consciousness. I still felt their echoes in my mind, my father's dismissive tones, Riley's mocking laughter, Mom's fearful silence. But now, instead of sinking under them, I allowed the memories to fuel me. Each flash of doubt or condescension became fuel for strategy, for vision, for execution. It was no longer about revenge. It was about proving to myself, first and foremost, that I could rise beyond the constraints others tried to impose on me. The announcement of the public reveal, 7 days away, cast a magnetic tension over everything we did. Every meeting, every pitch, every design iteration was suffused with urgency and anticipation. Logan and I meticulously reviewed every slide, every prototype, every technical detail that would be exposed to the world. We debated the sequence of announcements, the visuals on the LED screens, the precise phrasing of press statements. Each decision was a brushstroke in the masterpiece we were about to unveil, a masterpiece not just of technology, but of personal triumph, strategy, and vision. I remember sitting in the quiet of my office late one night, the glow of the city illuminating the skyline beyond the window. I traced my finger along the polished surface of the conference table, imagining the stage that would soon be alive with cameras, lights, and an expectant audience. The weight of the moment pressed against me, but not oppressively. It was the weight of responsibility, opportunity, and culmination. I knew that in 7 days, the world would see the real me, not the daughter my family thought they knew, not the insecure girl they assumed was helpless, but Harper Lane, visionary, creator, and unstoppable force. In those quiet moments, I let myself reflect. I thought about the long nights spent coding alone in a tiny apartment, the countless pitches to skeptical investors, the endless iterations of software testing and debugging. I remembered the first time PulseByte actually worked seamlessly across multiple platforms, the exhilaration, the disbelief, the sheer joy of seeing an idea transformed into reality. And I thought about the countless sacrifices along the way, the missed birthdays, the long stretches of isolation, the moments of doubt where the world seemed impossibly heavy. Every single one of those moments had led to this point. Every failure, every sleepless night, every tear shed in private, it had been worth it. The team, sensing my focus and energy, rose to meet it with equal fervor. They were more than colleagues, they were co-creators, believers, partners in a shared vision. As we rehearsed, polished, and perfected, I realized that this was what true collaboration felt like, not a hierarchy of authority, but a symphony of skills, ideas, and passion converging toward a single, brilliant moment. Each person was essential, and each person's brilliance amplified my own. The bond we shared was invisible yet undeniable, a current of trust, respect, and shared ambition that electrified every interaction. The morning of the final rehearsal arrived with a tense vibrancy. Denver's streets were alive with commuters, cyclists, and the occasional street performer, but inside the PulseByte building, a different rhythm prevailed. The stage was lit, the screens were programmed, the cameras were tested. Logan and I moved through the space like seasoned performers, checking angles, adjusting scripts, confirming cues. Every detail mattered. Every second was critical. And yet, amidst the precision and intensity, there was a profound sense of calm. I had trained, planned, and prepared for this moment for years, and now, standing at the threshold of revelation, I understood that all my efforts were converging into a single, unstoppable wave. Then came the message I had been dreading and anticipating in equal measure, a text from my mother. My heart tightened as I read the words, the familiar tremor of concern and fear evident even in digital form. Mom's worries had always been layered with love, caution, and a hint of helplessness, but now, separated by distance and accomplishments, they carried a different weight. I felt a pang, a flash of guilt, a whisper of longing, but I also felt clarity. I could not, would not, let their assumptions or fears dictate my actions. Not now, not ever again. I crafted a reply that balanced honesty and discretion, revealing nothing of the magnitude of what was about to unfold, yet reassuring her that I was alive, capable, and thriving. Logan, watching from across the room, gave me a small nod acknowledging the tension, understanding its significance, but reminding me, wordlessly, that our focus must remain forward. He was right. This was not a moment for reflection alone, this was a moment for action. The culmination of years, the manifestation of countless hours, the embodiment of ambition and resilience, was mere hours away. And I was ready. As the afternoon faded into evening, the final rehearsals pushed on. Every motion, every word, every gesture was calibrated to perfection. I stood on the stage repeatedly, imagining the audience, imagining the cameras, imagining the world watching. Each iteration strengthened my confidence, sharpened my focus, and solidified my presence. I realized then that preparation was not merely about logistics, it was about inhabiting the role I was born to play. The Harper Lane who had been pushed aside, underestimated, and dismissed was not the same Harper Lane who now commanded the room, the stage, and the future. The city lights flickered on beyond the windows, mirroring the crescendo of anticipation within me. Denver itself seemed to hold its breath, aware, in some subtle, ineffable way, that something monumental was about to unfold. Logan and I finally concluded our final checks, the team dispersing with a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. Alone, for a fleeting moment, I allowed myself to feel the enormity of what was coming, the national attention, the scrutiny, the inevitable awe and recognition. And for the first time, I felt not fear, but the thrill of being exactly where I was meant to be. That night, as the office emptied and the city buzzed quietly below, I sat at my desk, hands hovering over the keyboard, reflecting on the journey that had brought me here. The sleepless nights, the relentless challenges, the personal sacrifices, the silent battles, they had all led to this single, perfect moment. And in that reflection, I felt a deep, unwavering certainty. I was ready to step fully into the world's gaze, to reveal not only the brilliance of Pulsebite but the brilliance of the person who had brought it into existence. The moment of truth had arrived. Friday morning broke with a kind of electric tension that made the city itself seem alive. Denver was brighter than usual, buzzing with anticipation as if every street, every building, every passerby had been swept into the same current of expectation that coursed through my veins. Reporters were already lined up outside the Denver Tech Hall before the sun had fully risen, their cameras, tripods, and microphones bristling like mechanical sentinels, waiting for the storm that was about to hit. News vans dotted the street, emblazoned with logos from local and national outlets, while tech enthusiasts and curious bystanders craned their necks from behind barricades, phones raised, ready to capture history. Inside, Pulsebite's headquarters had transformed into a theater of precision and purpose. Every detail had been checked, double-checked, and triple-checked. Lighting cues, camera angles, teleprompters, microphones, LED screens all were synchronized to the second. The air hummed with controlled chaos, engineers whispered last-minute adjustments, PR specialists exchanged rapid-fire updates, and interns darted across the floor with clipboards and laptops. Logan was a whirlwind of efficiency, running from one station to the next with a calm authority that only someone who had built empires in their sleep could exude. I stayed close to him, my mind a blend of adrenaline and laser-sharp focus. Every rehearsal, every strategic choice, every sleepless night had led to this singular moment, the reveal of Pulsebite, and more importantly, the unveiling of Harper Lane not just as a tech innovator, but as a force that no one, not even my family, could deny. I could feel it in my bones. The world was about to see exactly who I was. Then came the unexpected, breaking news. Logan's tablet buzzed in his hand. "Harper," he said, a smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth, "someone's leaked a teaser. A major tech outlet, it's showing a silhouette, clearly of you. The city knows something is happening today, and anticipation just doubled." My pulse jumped. The leak was unplanned, uncontrolled, yet perfectly timed in its own chaotic way. A storm was coming, whether anyone was ready for it or not. And I smiled, letting the thrill surge through me. Backstage, I stood beneath the dim lighting, waiting for the cue. The hum of equipment and murmurs of the team faded into a singular, electric silence that pressed against me like the weight of destiny itself. Logan leaned close, his voice low and steady. "Harper Lane, co-founder, innovator, powerhouse, go claim it." I inhaled deeply, feeling the world tighten and expand all at once, like the moment before a rocket ignites. Then, The spotlight hit. The announcer's voice boomed, "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the brilliant mind behind PulseByte Security, Harper Lane." Light. Flash. Noise. The applause hit me in waves, thunderous and all-encompassing, reverberating through every corner of my body. Cameras clicked, lights glared, and for a heartbeat, the chaos blurred into a single, perfect moment of clarity. I stepped forward onto the stage, every step deliberate, every breath controlled, and felt a power I had never known. This was mine. Every ounce of struggle, every late-night coding session, every dismissive glance from my family, it had all led here. I began to speak, my voice ringing clear and confident. "Thank you for being here." PulseByte began as 2 laptops in a tiny apartment, fueled by ideas, determination, and the belief that technology can protect, innovate, and empower. Today, we are shaping the standards of national security. The crowd leaned in, captivated, some scribbling furiously, others capturing every frame on their devices. I turned toward the massive LED screen behind me. My photo appeared, alongside my title, Harper Lane, co-founder and lead systems architect. Applause exploded again, louder, more insistent, as if the very air was celebrating the culmination of years of unseen effort. Logan joined me for the product demonstration. He handled the pitch, I handled the tech. Together, we moved like a force of nature, calculated, sharp, unstoppable. Demonstrations of our AI security software flashed across the screens, illustrating the innovative edge we had built from scratch. Investors, journalists, and industry leaders watched, some leaning forward, some exchanging astonished glances. The questions came fast and precise: the algorithms, the architecture, the ethical safeguards, the market implications. I answered with poise, intelligence, and authority, each word etching Harper Lane into their collective consciousness. But even amidst the frenzy, my thoughts flickered briefly to my family. Dad calling repeatedly, Riley's silent judgment, Mom's anxious whispers, they all existed in the background, a ghostly audience of their own. For the first time, I realized I didn't need their approval, their recognition, or their understanding. I was creating my own legacy, defining my own narrative. And if they were watching now, they were about to witness a truth they could no longer ignore. I was not the child they underestimated. I was a force they had failed to contain. Hours later, after the reveal, the press interviews, and the flood of congratulatory messages, Logan and I stepped outside. The Denver skyline blazed with sunset hues, orange and gold spilling over glass towers. The city hummed, alive with energy, unaware that it had just witnessed a historic moment in tech history. My phone buzzed, it was Mom. I hesitated, then answered. "Harper," she said, voice trembling, "we just saw the news. The neighborhood, everyone is talking. Your father, he's stunned. Riley hasn't said a word." We had no idea. I stayed silent, letting her process, letting her understand that my path had been my own. "I wasn't alone," I said finally, my voice calm but strong. "I had people who believed in me." She sniffled, soft, emotional. "We're proud of you, so proud." There was a pause, and I knew she was waiting for more. But I didn't offer anything else, not yet. "Things are different now," I said gently. "I'm not coming back to be treated the way I was." "I understand," she whispered. I hung up and looked at Logan, who smiled knowingly. We walked to the rooftop of our building, takeout boxes in hand, Denver sparkling beneath us like a testament to ambition and persistence. He raised his cup of iced tea. "To the woman who just became a national headline," he said. I clinked mine against his. "To the guy who believed in me before anyone else." We sat in silence, savoring the weight of the day, the thrill of triumph, and the quiet power of standing unapologetically in our own success. Logan's words lingered, soft but profound. "Your family's reaction doesn't define your success." I nodded, eyes on the skyline. "No," I said. "But it feels good to finally stand on my own, to prove them wrong without saying a word." He smiled. "You didn't just prove them wrong. Harper, you built an empire they can never take credit for." The truth hit deeper than any words could. I had walked out of my home with nothing but a duffel bag and a one-way bus ticket. Now, I was the co-founder of a $40 million company, A woman who had claimed her destiny, earned her stage, and transformed every doubt into triumph. The night settled around us, quiet but charged, a perfect counterpoint to the storm of the day. And in that moment, I understood. This was not an ending. Not a happy ending in the fairytale sense. It was a powerful beginning, a declaration that Harper Lane, underestimated, dismissed, and doubted, was now a force impossible to ignore. The city lights reflected in my eyes, mirroring the fire inside. I leaned back, whispered to myself, and felt it fully. I had claimed my life, my story, and my power. And that, finally, was mine.